Episode_number_21. It was the same night when he thought of meeting Imam for the first time. No matter what he thinks, they could not make Imam the heir of their property because he had to make a lot of confessions for that. In this part of his life, he thought for the first time that he should confess so that the burden of conscience is less. And beware of Shaitan. He is disappointed that he should be worshipped on earth, but he is pleased to cause mischief among you. So you have your religion from him, and protect the faith. After sitting for a few hours near the corpses of his family in this area of the property, Ghulam Farad went to a bar and slept in the animal cage that night. The bodies of his family were seen in the morning by people who were milking the sun, and after that there was chaos in the village. Ghulam Farad kept his daughter staring at him while he was in the zoo. When the whole village came to this area, the people also saw Ghulam Farad, and this bloody face too. It was the first time when someone from the village could not abuse him like always. They were horrified by it, seeing it from afar and whispering as if they were a caged wild animal in a zoo. He did not know his mother, sister, wife. He did not abuse the daughter. He did not reprimand him. He did not curse or blame him. After doing this, what will be done with his wife and daughter? For the first time in his life, Ghulam Farad achieved the status of a human after being an animal for a while. Before the police arrived, Maulvi Sahib also heard on the way what Ghulam Farad had done. He took off. It seems that Ghulam Farad has been punished by Allah for what he did on this evil that he had done with the cleric. And this thing he kept repeating in the Friday sermon for the next few months. What could be a better opportunity to register his faith? When the police arrived, the cleric welcomed them and told them that he was a devil who deserved to be hanged. This devil handed himself over to the police without any reprimand. But I killed everyone, and only because I didn't want him to live the same life as Ghulam Farad. I could not leave. Ghulam Farad said in his confession statement before the police. Know that every Muslim is the brother of another Muslim and all Muslims are one ummah. It is not permissible for anyone to take away from his brother except what he gives to his brother willingly, and do not exceed yourself and others. The first person who saw Roti, covered in blood and crying from hunger, thought that he was also injured. But when he was raised to help him and give him medical aid, it was found out that she was the right one. It was a miracle for the village and Walu. The slave was not Farad's brother and was ready for only one thing from Bahunu, that he should bring the sugar to them. Will say no one in Nasim's family is ready for her to bring up the daughter of a murderer in their home. But immediately under the influence of Sulla Rami, an old neighbor started to take care of the sugar. For the first time in his life after birth, Cheney was given food, good clothes and a bed. On the day his family was killed, Cheney, who was never looked at carefully by his father, saw him. One whole village except for his maternal and infant families. Poverty is such a great curse that it erases the blood relations and basic qualities of humanity from within a person. Ghulam Farad had only one sister, S.C., who had 4 children and 3 of them were sons, so the pressure of the new family fell on S.C. Own the last sign, be ready to pass. But her husband and mother-in-law killed her the day after the accident with their anger and displeasure. Administrative officials, politicians, and social figures in that area, the arrival of and whosoever wanted, they were given a little financial assistance with a hand on the head of Cheney, a series of checks and cash payments for financial assistance has created a rift in a troubled drug relationship. Cheney was not a burden, but a burden remover. Everyone felt the same. The entire family of this neighbor from across the South Side sat on the house of Dana Nadr and said to the party that they refer to the court for the custody of Cheney. Until then, the girl will stay in this house. The neighbor who kept the sugar started spending the cash he got for it on the pretext of spending it on sugar. Or as it was a very ganga, in which everyone used to wash their hands. That streak of cash came to an end very soon. People's sympathy would fade with his memory. And then there came a time when Cheney became a burden to the neighbors. That government aid check to use. But now there was a restriction and he could only meet her as he chose. He got custody of Multi and anyone could meet him only in his relationship. So, before the court decided the case, Cheney had paid a small sum of money to the biggest manager of the neighbor, and he also told the court that he would pay the same amount. Most of all, good parenting pays off. After 3 months, in spite of the and Barker of all the relatives, he was successful in getting the custody of Cheney and a check of 10 lakh rupees from the court. A golden bird sat on the head of the old man. Before that he used to play a reed, and the fruit and vegetables would come from one side to the other. From 10 lakhs, he immediately bought a piece of land and started farming. This kind of sugarcane cultivation will not be done as it was done in the past, but his neighbor did it. Mamor's son saw so much money with his father for the first time in his life. Allah had miraculously changed their lives, but even with the help of this miracle, they were not ready to tie the head of Cheney. Cheney's true happiness started on this day when the school owner came to see Cheney about a month after the incident happened to Cheney's family. The place where Ghulam Farid worked and being expelled as a punishment took away his family from China. **** You are all children of Adam, and Adam was made of clay. Do not favor an Arab over a foreigner, or a foreigner over an Arab, a white person over a black person, or a black person over a white person. Accept piety. And take care of your slaves, open them with what you eat and wear them with what you wear. And if they commit a sin that you do not want to forgive, sell them. But punish them. Do not give ****. The outer gate was always opened by Wali maid, who worked at the house. Salah had just opened the door to the living room when his 2 children, who were playing in the lawn every day, came running towards him. Jibreel arrived first at the age of 40. Sitting on the living seat, he kissed his son's face. He was drenched in sweat. Assalamu alaikum. After taking out a tissue from the tissue box lying in the car, he cleaned Jibreel's forehead and face. 2-year-old Anai gasped, trembled, screamed, and cried. He took it in his lap and it was very strong. After he got rid of her, he repeatedly kissed his daughter's cheek. Jibreel had closed the door of the village until then. He dropped Anaya down. After meeting Dano's father, they ran back into the lawn. He was looking at his child for a while, then taking out his briefcase and jacket from the back of the car, he went towards the inner door of the house. Imam was coming to the door to receive him. Are you coming soon? He said, hugging her like always. There was not much work today. So, take a look. She took the jacket from his hand and laughed. He smiled instead of answering. She brought water for him. How are you? He was picking up a glass from the tray in his hand. When Imam suddenly asked. He was surprised to see her face. Yes. At all. Why? No, I am tired. And she is asking about it. Instead of answering, Salah took the glass from my mouth and left. After changing clothes, he came to the sting area. Congo had never liked the weather because of the rains that could start at any time and would probably start again soon. He turned involuntarily to see Imam's voice outside in the lawn. She had taken 2 mugs of tea in a tray and some biscuits in a plate. Thank you, he smiled while picking up a mug and a biscuit. They are going out to see the children, she said while going out. I am waiting for your call. He shook his head and went out. A few minutes later, he saw Imam in the lawn, sitting on a chair in a corner of the lawn. She was smiling at Salah. He also smiled in response. Imam was now fully focused on the child. Taking a sip of tea, he covered that part of his body with the shawl on his right shoulder, where a new life was growing. A 3rd child was expected. There was cold tea in Salah's hand. He took a deep breath and put it on the table. Imam's figure was right. He was not. He was looking at a happy family with a perfect life and precious moments of his children. There is another child inside. His wife's assurance and happy face. Life could be so beautiful by throwing a few papers. He fainted for a moment. Children and wife are the true test of man. His phone started ringing. At one point, he saw the caller. He assumed he was receiving the call. At that time, the person on the other side was his wife. Why he had to choose one thing from his life and resignation. ***, listen well. Worship your Lord. Establish 5 daily prayers. Keep the fast of Ramadan. Pay the zakat of your wealth gladly. He is a snub-nosed Negro. Surrender the paradise of your Lord. Congo, the 2nd largest country in Africa, was previously known for having only 5 cheeses in the world. Kanjangi, in which 45 million people had lost their lives. In terms of poverty, Congo was ranked 187 out of 188 countries in the UN Economic Index. Daily means Congo is the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources. A generation. That is the only slave of the religious era, which slavery was legal. The World Bank, together with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, launched a massive deforestation project in the Congo. When Salah Iskander arrived in the Congo as the head of the project, 3 years had already passed. It was too soon to meet Ibaka after Salah's first meeting with Peter. Ibaka was dramatic. It was about a year after he arrived in the Congo, when he was exploring a place called Lamoko as his team when Peter's Ibaka suddenly arrived with about 24 pygmies. That Garas saw Ibaka and his group take shape and began firing unhesitatingly into the realm of consciousness. Salah saw 2 pygmies injured and the rest hiding in the bark of a tree and then heard Ibaka loudly call out in English from the bark of a tree that he was pregnant. They did not come to talk. It was in the morning of his car that he first heard Ibaka's call. For a few moments, he was surprised that a pygmy could speak English. Listen to his American lips and accent in which Ibaka shouted that he has to talk to them. He just wants to meet. He has no weapon. Salah told Garaza that he wanted to speak to the caller. Stop firing because neither the other side is firing, nor using any weapon. His family kept arguing with him for a long time and the only solution to end this discussion was taken by Salah, which could prove to be the biggest mistake of his life. If the second group had been a real weapon, he would have jumped out of the car and taken off from the ground. I've been here. Salah could understand that his feelings were not Pakistan, but Khan was a victim of the war in Congo. Firing was stopped. In his imitation, his teeth also came out. At the end of the firing, Ibaka also came out. Salah shouted and prevented Garras from shooting. Then he was a man of immense height, black, with a flat nose and thick black eyes. They are directed towards. Unlike his colleagues, he was in jeans and a shirt. He lived a strange year among these barefoot pygmies wearing jaggery. Peter's Ibaka. The short man introduced himself from the senior year, extended his hand to shake the hand, which the senior yearned for in a larger-than-life style. Checked from head to toe, it was understood that he would also be among the logos that foreign countries come to help them face. Salah is also someone from Ibaka. I was waiting for the command. But Ibaka's language, he was surprised to hear his name. He did not introduce himself to Ibaka. So how did he know him? He could not ask Ibaka this question. He said that he knew him very well. It is also about Waz, a Lomoka man. This was told by a local man working in a bank office, who had an appointment to meet the Salah despite Ibaka's efforts. Refused to help in obtaining tea. He used to call Salah's office number daily. He had encrypted emails on his email on the website. The answer was always only answered. The phone calls were received. Staff members of the running year, knowing the purpose of the meeting, they used to avoid it in a very normal way. Hearing his speech, Salah could not be impressed by his speech and language. It was an unbelievable story, but what Salah heard afterwards was enlightening. Congo after 5 years working with Roop. Is it? A few visiting cards taken out of his wallet. He was extravagantly gifted by Salah. How did he get to the Wild Horror School and then he being associated with JP Morgan Group? So what was he doing here? Ibaka gave the answer to this question to Salah Iskander in his office the other day in his second meeting with a pile of papers. What he used to give to Salah Iskander in this meeting. As a child in Lomoka at the age of 10, Ibaka was introduced to a missionary who accompanied him to the jungles of the Congo to communicate with the Wahi people. 1. Continue to carry and then attach to this child to this extent. He also took Ibaka on his way to Congo due to illness. He took him to America where he named him Patrice. A new religion too, but most of all he taught Ibaka. Ibaka was extremely intelligent and reporter Johnson tested his intelligence. He brought Ibaka to the Congo. Every year after that. Where is the family of Ibaka? The plan was left. 10-year-old Ibaka spent the next 25 years in America, but after that he returned to America. He wanted to stay with his people because they needed him and they needed him. A project was started in this part of the forest. His tribe was inhabited by his family and more than 10,000 people who used to enter this part of the forest, in which he lived since the beginning of the century. As the forest was being cut down, the whole land was cleared, and then the search for minerals began, which was the second part of the project. And the problem of Ibaka. It was not his family. His problem was that of the whole forest. Part of it was being cut by making zones. We are 5 lakh people. But this forest supports 3 people in the Congo. The World Bank is supporting the timber industry. Because it will end our poverty when the forest is gone. Wood that is sold expensively in factories and showrooms in Europe and America. What will the Congolese do if things change? You people want to take away from us even what Allah has given us. How would you feel if we were to take away even the least of them in the West? Ibaka presented his case very eloquently. Oh yes, Allah had detailed answers to his questions, like this project in the Congo, and details of many other projects on his arm. He was the country head of the World Bank. But it was the first time that Peter Ibaka's revelations and questions began to bother him. A lot was going on under his nose, but he didn't know about it. But he was a part of it all, because it was all approved by his signature. According to Ibaka's followers, he has been reading for weeks. For several weeks, he has been fighting with himself. There are many other countries in Africa where the Junker Trek has been recreated. I was objectionable in this regard. Wood was being cut, the forest was being cleared, the population was not being interfered with, and the conditions on which the license was given to these companies were not fulfilling these conditions either. He was given the task of improving the economic condition of the people of this area in exchange for wood. And that company was supplying logos to a few temporary schools and hospices, instead of carrying wooden sticks for crews. The food was in the form of dry milk, salt and spices. And all this under the supervision of World Bank officials. It existed because the Pygmies had a status of influence in this country. They could not go to court against these companies. Ibaka took a look at himself. These documents were given. And then it was assumed that those documents and the information found in them were absolutely correct. The decision of the conscience was very easy. Whatever was wrong was wrong. He didn't want to be a part of it. But the problem was what to do. Raise your voice. World Bank, he was doing it. He was equal to the dignity of humanity. After meeting Ibaka in Africa, for the first time in his life, Salah understood the words of the sermon of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that there is no superiority of black over white and white over black. He always saw these words only in terms of brotherhood and inferiority. He was witnessing the exploitation of the black population that inhabited a large area of the world. And then he saw the lust of mental retardation of the white population of which he was also a part. He felt fear. Was it prophesied about the last words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the same black farm population? Or any warning that not only white people but also Muslims were ignored? A century ago, the shackles of slavery were removed from the black market. At the turn of the 21st century, colonialism in Africa put that ring in its throat once again. He was also an Ibaka in the Black Fam logo. Even after spending 55 years of his life in a developed country like America, people came from there to this dark era, only for the survival of your people. Salah learned the meaning of the word survival from Ibaka and what sacrifice can be made with it. He was still learning from him. If he was influencing Salah Iskander, he could influence anyone. He met two of the most intelligent people in the world. How is it possible that one is affected and the other is not? Salah Iskander, I have not met a more capable and intelligent person than you in my life. Salah smiled and left. I myself have worked in international organizations and have met various people working in them. But you are different from all of them, and I am sure you are. I will help. Thank you for the compliment, but if you want my help with this happy resort and you think I will close my eyes and crucify you for you after hearing all this from me. If you go to my bar, your guess is wrong. Do whatever you want, I will. I will understand. Salah knew that Ibaka had found a messiah in his form, despite his flattering appreciation of Ibaka. Even the messiah, who could make his conscience unconscious despite working in the World Bank, could not be saved. Your sense of humor is very good, Ibaka said with a smile. These things are not found in the mind. Salah said turkey by turkey. And in the situation that you are sitting next to me, there is no possibility of him being born even after that. I have been reading, working, and interacting with many Muslims, but you are different from them. That was a strange comment. How am I different? Salah could not remain without asking. You are a good Muslim, as well as a good human being. Those whom I grew up with were either good Muslims or good people. Salah could not speak for a long time. It is worth speaking about, said this irreligious person of Africa. What do you think is a good Muslim? Salah asked after a long silence. You didn't understand me. Ibaka was a bit cautious. No. I find your point interesting. But this was the first sentence that came out of your language, in which you showed less knowledge. He was not sitting there to discuss religion, but religion was being discussed. What? Muslims. One who is active, does all the prayers, does not eat pork, does not drink alcohol, does not go to nightclubs. He is a good Muslim near me. Like a good Christian or a good Jew. Ibaka had no idea that what he was saying in his little knowledge was enough to embarrass Salah. Ibaka believed him to be a good Muslim and a good human being. But did he meet this standard? What do you think of Ryan Johnson's bar? Salah said blankly. Will. Ibaka said with a smile that he has many virtues, but he could never be my idol. Why? He was giving a strange favor to the question and answer teacher. There was a price for their kindness. They wanted to make me a Christian. When I adopted that religion, they gave all those kindnesses to a Christian child. As a human being, he did nothing for me. Religion cannot be forced into anyone's heart and mind. I studied a lot about all religions. But it is not known why a person becomes a follower of these religions. He sits on his own merits. Ibaka felt like talking. Salah had been silent for too long. No, you are also a philosopher. Salah smiled and said, how did you come back from America? Salah asked him the question that bothered him the most. One thing I learned from Reed Johnson was to sacrifice yourself for your people, to put others before yourself. America was great and that was my future. It was only my future. There was nothing for my nation. I have a dream of becoming a farmer in the Congo, Ibaka said. And what? Salah got curious again. To become the president of the Congo. Put a smile on Salah's face. Aren't you laughing? Ibaka replied. You have done nothing to laugh at. After graduating from Harawa School, you should dream so big. Ibaka smiled at his words. He was in a state of extreme anxiety for months. He was torn between what he should do and what he could do. Even if he did not help Ibaka, even though he was fighting for his rights as passionately as he was, Salah was sure that sooner or later he would face a big scandal in the face of the World Bank. The time of conservation measures is long gone. Peters Ibaka was not just a Kangala or Swahili-speaking pygmy confined to the jungles of the Congo. He was a person who spent a large part of his life in America and had many contacts, although he is not working at this time, but this did not make him weak, but more powerful. They were not only pygmies but Bantu tribes. The sound also stopped. whose exclusiveness was in the forests. Even before Ibaka took the next step, his correspondence with Jewel came under the scrutiny of logos whose interests were served by the World Bank. Before any action was taken against him in England, a newspaper published a cover story about Congolese pygmies and the World Bank's projects in the Congolese rainforest after investigating information provided by Ibaka, in which many objections were raised regarding the role of the World Bank. Jesse Hulchel went to the headquarters of the World Bank in Washington. An attempt was made to suppress the reporting and coverage of this matter in the world media, but before that, the excellent newspapers of many countries in Europe and Asia had reprinted this article, and the World became when that movement reached its peak. A detailed email was sent by Salah Iskander to the head office regarding the ongoing projects in the Congo. And this was the time when Salah started receiving threats from unknown sources. Those projects which are running these companies are giving billions of dollars in revenue. If the bank's country head opposes it, those companies and the international silent power behind them remain silent spectators. If it were a normal situation, by this time Salah would have resigned and been removed from the job in a big way. But this time his resignation raised the curiosity of the international media. Reply to the email as a warning to the owner. It was given yesterday, which in simple words was urged to be silenced. Not only did the bank disapprove of his analysis in the email, but also the debris of the cover story published in Garan on the information provided by Peter Ibaka. It is used in Ibaka and its cover story. The source of information has been decided. This allegation put a damper on Salah Iskander's professional work. Despite sympathizing with, influencing and communicating with Peter Ibaka, Salah did not share any of the bank's information or documents. Where did Ibaka get all the information from? He didn't know anyone other than Ibaka. In response to this warning, Salah tendered his resignation to the bank. He now felt that he was being monitored. His phone calls were being taped and his emails were being hacked. What is the end of the relationship? As part of his resignation, he also sent the bank a detailed report against his forestry project in the Congo, which was Salah's own knowledge. It was requested. Imam had no knowledge of this whole situation. She was hopeful and Salah did not want to make her a part of the tension she was going through. She only knew about Ibaka Aura's struggle. Imam became concerned about Sahih Manuan only when he saw the name of Salah Iskander also appearing in the media, about whom the media was saying that he had taken the head office from this project. Laffey report. And under these circumstances, he was suddenly summoned from Washington, and this was the situation on which the Imam finally asked him, "Is everything okay, sir?" She was doing the packing of Salah that night when he suddenly asked. He was preparing his briefcase. "Hey friend, why are you asking?" Salah asked him in reply. "Why are you going to Washington?" She could not formulate her concern in the form of a proper question. "There is a meeting. You often come to me. Why are you asking this kind of question this time?" He closed his briefcase and said to Imam, "You have never been so anxious before." "No, it is not a big problem. Maybe it will be that I will have to answer my job." Keeping each hand on Imam's shoulder, he tried to keep his tone as normal as possible. This time it was Imam's turn to have a smile. "Will you have to answer the question? You are very happy with your job." She is not surprised. "But not now," Salah said briefly. "There are a few problems. A car will tell you." You take care of yourself and the child. Where are you to? Salah changed the matter with great ease. For a moment he thought that under these circumstances he should not leave the little boy and Imam alone in Kinshasa. But what was the solution was up to him. Imam, the last stage of pregnancy is going on. She could not travel by plane. You take care of yourself and the baby. I am leaving for 3 days. Only. He will be back soon. He was sleeping in the children's room and making love to Gabriel and Anaye. His flight was a few hours later. Keep the servant at your house in my absence, he said, while instructing Imam. Don't worry about us. It's 3 days, so just watch your meeting. I hope he is well. Imam was worried about this meeting. He packed his things to leave in half an hour. He sat down in the lounge to drink one last cup of tea. I love you and always will. The Imam sipped his tea, then laughed. It's been a long time since you said something like that before you left. She was patting his hand now. Salah smiled and picked up the cup of tea. Yes, it's good, but you're alone, so I'm thinking about it. I am not alone. Gabriel and Anai are with me. Don't worry. Salah was taking a sip of tea and Imam also started drinking tea. But it felt like he wanted to say something to her. Do you want to ask me something? He couldn't help but smile after drinking tea. She always carried it. I want to make a confession, but I won't do it now. I'll be back, Gas said, holding a cup of tea. I strongly dislike this habit of yours. I'll keep thinking I don't know what to confess. Imam always used to do bad things and his words were not wrong. He always used to do the same. I will never do it again. He laughed and stood up. It was time to go. He spread his arms and had one last meeting with the Imam before leaving as usual. Yisha's style is warm and enthusiastic. Come on, miss you. Come quickly. She was as passionate as ever and kept repeating the same words that she always used to repeat. One last time in the porch, to say God save him, he shook the old man's hand in farewell. He went out of the gate. Time and life were both gone. She was in New York at that time. He was about to have his first child. He was in the seventh heaven because heaven was the blessing that came under his feet. Jeannie was not going. It was the 3rd month of her pregnancy when Salah woke her up one night. He did not understand what Salah had tried to tell him by waking him from his sleep. And he did not understand the quality of Salah either. Before this, Iskander and he were discussing whether to inform the Imam or in this case to hide this news from him. Iskander thought that the Imam should not be told now, but Salah's decision was that he could not make him suffer for the rest of his life by telling him such a big news. He was in touch. Even so, information is received in half a day. He was killed, along with dozens of others in a shooting at a place of worship in Cardianu, and Imam had seen this news a few hours ago, and he was saddened by the loss of life. Najida was also like a human being. But her delusions. He had no idea that 2 people close to him could also be included in these people. How could such a night happen? Islamabad was not a place of worship, it was the pride of the city. And how can Wasim go there? Also, she used to go to her worship very rarely. I am sure it was because a week later she and Saad were coming to New York. She was meeting Saad 10 years later. Why was that? He promised that he would be convinced of his beliefs and he would also convince Saad, who was more strict in his beliefs. A day ago, he had talked to Wasim and Salah. What was she saying? Was she crazy? Or was she having a nightmare? He was not patient. He was not shocked. He was unsure. Salah had an idea, but he did not understand how he got out of it after this revelation. She was sitting on the same bed for several hours, silent, without shedding tears, without answering any of Salah's questions or words, like a person who was not a person, but became a snowball. Salah is very sorry, however. He made a mistake by not listening to Iskander. Salah invited his actor cousin to watch him at home. Imam did not remember exactly what happened after that. Salah remembered for a moment. He saw her go to the border of insanity and turn around. She was silent for days. Yes. Rutiyu cried for hours. Suti didn't open her eyes and woke up all day and night, without even lying on the bed for a few moments, going from the lounge to the bedroom, and from the bedroom to the lounge. Your feet are just one. It was a miracle that Jibril was not hurt even in his mental state and quality. She sat as if forgetting that another life was growing inside her. And when the terror was less, she asked Salah to go to Pakistan. She wanted to go to her home. Salah did not ask her which house she calls her home. It was sold. I want to go to Islamabad, he said on Salah's question. He did not discuss it. If the meeting with his housekeeper would make him normal, he could go to any extent for the meeting. According to Hashem, they were neighbors. Salah's family was not unaware of the doomsday that came to their home. There was a difference in religion. This is what Hashem said. How shocking was the death of two Betos in Bad Hapa. Iskander could guess. Ahmad-m7f accepted his condolences, was Alexander did not expect to meet Imam. He had to express his concerns to Salah, but he could not stop Salah from making an attempt when he saw Imam in the state he was in. Hashem-m7f not only refused to talk to Iskander on the phone but also did not let Salah enter through the gate of the house. Iskander and he returned to the world of despair. Despair and helplessness. Salah was helpless in front of him. But for the first time he did not raise his arms in front of Imam. If you want to go home, talk to your father first. He will give permission and then he will go with you. Can't send for all. Despite his crying and crying, Salah did not understand. Imam took permission by talking to his father on the phone. But this phone call changed everything. What Salah could not understand was Hashem-m7f told him it was understood. What has happened is because of you. The people you are sitting with have found out about my business. And now you want to come to my house. You want to come to my house with the killer. How great is the difference between you and us, Imam remembered. He hung up the phone before hearing anything more from Hashem-m7f. After that, she was crying. Only Wasim was there in the house. She came back to New York with Salah. He was thinking that she would be normal, slowly, she would recover. But it did not happen. The stress of the accident started to paralyze Imam's nerves. He used to work part-time in an organization. He used to leave the house at 5 o'clock in the morning and return at 8 o'clock at night, and he was so tired when he returned. After watching TV for a couple of hours, he ate and went to sleep. Imam was completely alone in this one-bedroom apartment on the 8th floor for 12 to 14 hours. Wasim did not leave his mind. Have it in your phone every day. She would start reading the messages that were in the number of seconds and then spend hours on them. She did what she could to console Dallas and Joey. He used to leave home early in the morning thinking about her, and at night when he came back home he was thinking about her. Imam's mental quality started to irritate him. There was still a lot of time in the birth of Jibreel. Psychiatrists are not giving her strong medication because of her pregnancy. Imam said one night before his patience was exhausted, "I want to go to Pakistan." Why? Salah found his question self-evident. Then what he said blew the mind of Salah. "I saw Wasim yesterday. There, by the kitchen counter, he was drinking water. I think that if I stay here for a while, I will become crazy. Or maybe it will start happening and I don't want that. And quote. Okay, we're going back. Just give me a couple of weeks to wind it all down." And quote. Salah decided instantly. "Halaya, you are doing PH. How can you come with me? I will go to PH. If you don't need an attorney, you and your life are necessary." Salah replied. In an attempt to say something, Imam's voice rang out and he said, "And quote. No and quote." He tried to speak again and this time she started crying profusely. "No, I will not come with you. Why is it necessary that you sacrifice all your life? Keep me. Your time is precious. Why do you waste so many precious years of your life on me?" Salah tried to say something. If there was another time, this confession would have given him happiness. But now it was causing him pain. "I am not suitable for you. As much as I feel that you have a bright future, but my presence is a hindrance to your progress. I feel guilty." He was silently looking at her face and she was crying and talking. "And father, after seeing Wasim in you and also," he stopped talking. Only his tears and hiccups did not stop. "Sir, you are a very good person. Very good. You are very capable. You should meet a woman who is like you. Help you grow in life. Don't be a burden on your feet like me. And all this you are saying today when we are expecting our first child. I think this child will die too." He said strange things. Salah tried to hold his hand. To be continued.